Dr. Huizenga told me that I needed to stick to my plan. He said, I wish that you weren't going on this show. I wish you could just stay home. You would be so much more successful. He was a very big supporter, but he said the show is going to destroy you. You really need to stick to what's working for you and ignore what's going on the show. Would you like to learn more about the topics that were discussed today? Join us at radicallyhealthy.com, where we're combining lifestyle with other tools to add to our toolbox. We have many offerings, from a free community to a private community and even one-on-one support. Hope to see you there. Welcome to today's show. Today, I'm going to go over my response as season 3 contestant of The Biggest Loser, Fit for TV, the #1 Netflix docuseries that has come out in this past week. What my thoughts are, some behind the scenes they didn't talk about, some in between the lines they didn't talk about, and so much more. So if you're new here, my name is Adrian. I've been on a weight loss journey my entire life, and I've tried everything from The Biggest Loser to marathon running and low-fat diets, to restriction, to keto, to carnivore, to sardine fasting, to lion dieting, and truly nothing stuck. Everything seemed to make it worse until I combined eating lots of meat and getting exercise with a GLP-1 and optimizing my hormones and thyroid. Okay, so let's get into it, okay, you guys? Let me grab my notes here real quick. This should be spicy. If you guys want some spicy, go watch Jillian and Bob's Instagram and their social media right now, because they're like, pew, 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 pew. But I'll give you what I've seen, because I've been watching a lot of both of them. Plus I haven't met Jillian, but Bob was on my season. So let's go into it. So first of all, this Friday, which probably already posted, you can go back and see last Friday or the Friday before, whenever this posts. I went live with Sonia from season 16, Andrea from season 16, Buddy from season 13, and a few others. So I think maybe some few others will pop on as we, as a group, will discuss our thoughts on the series. But today I want to dive into all of my personal thoughts, which I'm not going to go into in a group setting. Okay, so first of all, before the show, I went to an open casting call at the Mall of America. There's probably 1,000 people there. I didn't hear anything from that, so I created a video. It was a very low quality video, but it was me crying, me sharing how lonely I am, me doing cartwheels in the snow. So obviously I'm a ridiculous person in a bikini, but also the emotional side of how this has been a struggle my whole life and how this show could change my life. So then I heard them say some of the similar things, that I got like a random email from, Becky Johnson at gmail.com stating they were allegedly part of The Biggest Loser and that I had made it to the next level of the casting. I was like, thinking, is this fake? But we'll go with it. There wasn't a lot of information. If I remember correctly, I feel like part of the selection was taking like the DSM, where you do like mental health. They check your mental health. And after being on the show, I don't think it was a disqualifier. Eventually, we get sent the contract. And it was a book. It was, hundreds, let's go 300 pages long. And it made me so sick to my stomach to just sign it. So my stepmom drove across, because I was going to college about 5 hours from home, and she drove and read page by page with me, and we submitted it. Then I remember getting the email stating, okay, here's your flight information. And I remember like everybody thinking I was nuts, because we didn't know if it was real or not. If I was like hopping on a plane to go get killed, who knows? But I took that chance, even though it just seemed very weird that it wasn't Becky at thebiggestloser.com. But I did it, and I got on the plane, and it was so interesting. We were sequestered from the second we got there. We each got our own hotel room. I was drinking a lot and eating plenty because I kind of wanted to boost my starting number as best I could, which I didn't know how to play those games at that time. Now that I've met some people in wrestling, now I know a little differently. But so we did that. Then we did a weigh-in. We went and had a doctor consultation with Dr. Huizenga. Now everybody knows Dr. Huizenga. I love him, by the way, and we'll go into that in a few minutes here. He did everything from, we went into a pod, we floated in water, we did a DEXA scan. So my first DEXA scan was in 2006. He did all kinds of blood testing and stress testing. I feel like we were tested for days. Then we got to do our first filming. Oh, there was a photo shoot too, as well, in our initial shirt. And I was shocked because my shirt said North Dakota on it, even though it's from Minnesota. But since I went to college in North Dakota, they had me represent North Dakota. So we did all the photo shoots. That was really interesting. Then we went to go do the first filming. And if you watch season 3, you'll see just how powerful it is. We did the same things over and over again, all these walks over and over again. I don't remember how long it took, but it felt like days of walking through the valley and the helicopter flying over and recording us over and over again. Then we got down and we found out our host was Carolyn Caroline Ray from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And she said, okay, guys, only 14 of you are staying and the rest of you are going home. And I remember one by one realizing that my dream of being on the show wasn't really happening. And I was not selected to stay on the show. And I was so heartbroken. But then we find out the twist as those gifted people got to walk away with their dreams come true, that whoever lost the most weight at home was going to come back on. From there, we proceeded to go on to sit down for, it felt like a week, but it was a while. It was at least 4 days. It was a decent amount of time of meeting the other 36 people that were going home, creating community, having more information from Dr. Huizenga. We had a nutritionist that we met and a psychologist, and all of them had presentations for us on how we were going to succeed at home and what the plan was. And as we go into this, I'm going to tell you, Dr. H's plan is completely different than what the trainers were doing to these contestants on the ranch. So I went home. I did Dr. H's thing to a T. I remember thinking, I'm not keeping up with the weigh-ins from the previous seasons. I'm such a type A person. I went and watched every single episode and wrote down what they lost, each person. And so I had from season 1 and season 2, and I wanted to keep up with that. And I wasn't even close. And so I was thinking, I'm not going to make the show. Much to my surprise, I get a call that I've made the top 3 women. They decided to bring back 1 woman and 1 man, thank God, because otherwise I would have been totally alone. And we go back, and everybody's like, hey, it's you. And I was thinking, really? But as a 21-year-old who had horrible self-esteem, I thought nobody loved me. I was a really awkward person because to get attention, I would say really obscure, weird things. My sense of humor was really perverted, let's say. I was such an awkward person, and I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. And I really thought other people will love me if I could if I could stop being the obese person in the room, people will finally respect and love me. And what I didn't realize at the time is that I didn't love and respect myself. So we go and we do our weigh-in, and I find out Jaren and I are going to make the show, but we were beating them, and so that made them hate us. Okay, I just looked up the actual results, not that anybody cares of what happened 19 years ago, but I had lost 23.35%. Jaren had lost 23.22%, and the contestants that were on the ranch, Heather had lost 20%, Wiley had lost about as much as Jaren, 23.32, very similar to me. Kai had lost 22.66 and Eric was at 18.22. So, some of the contestants were right in there, but some of them were not. But here's what the real stinger was that we lost all that weight while at home with our family. And what people don't realize, this is a big one, you guys, is that these people were completely sequestered from the world while this filming was happening. Completely sequestered. So they are missing their family. They're extinguishing fat, which extinguishes hormones into your bloodstream really, really quickly, which makes you really emotional. We all had pictures of ourselves in our basically underwear that was going to be sent to hundreds of millions of people in the world to see. And it was just a very, it's already emotional when you do reality TV, because when you're on a reality TV show, you want to win. Your whole life is that game, and the game goes on 24/7. So it can be difficult to rest. It can be difficult to sit still. And, then you compile weight loss on top of it. Then you compile being sequestered on top of it. And now you've got some really, really emotional people, of course, So we get on the show. And before I go, though, Dr. Huizenga had some things to say to me. He told me that I needed to stick to my plan. He said, ignore everything. He actually was kind of like, I wish that you weren't going on this show. I wish you could just stay home. You would be so much more successful if you were able to stay home. He was a big fan. He was a very big supporter. But he said the show is going to destroy you. And he said you really need to stick to what's working for you and ignore what's going on the show. So, I'll tell you how that went. Anyway, okay, so my mindset was, who's ever going to marry me? I'm not lovable. Let's go into the trainers. So we get on the set, and our season had Bob and not Jillian. Jillian wasn't there. It was Kim Lyons. Bob refused to even talk to us. I tried to have a conversation with him, and instead of actually talking to me, he talked to his teammate to talk to me. It was very clear I was less than, I was nothing to him. He hated my guts. He'd never met me, he wanted nothing to do with me, and he just found everything about me really icky. There were people with him and his team saying, get them out as soon as possible. We don't want those people here. Can you imagine being 21, being on this weight loss journey, having been thrown home, your dream of being there was ripped away. You finally make it back and you come to this group of people who despise your living, your whole thing. And on top of that, I'm already coming from a place where I'm like, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. And here you have this like in your face, absolute hatred. What continued to happen from there was, if you watch season 3, I think there's a bootleg version of it on YouTube. I cry like every single episode because it was very isolating to be in the position Jaron and I were in. And every single challenge that we had was political and geared against us. So the entire show was stacked against these at-home contestants losing. They did not want people at home to win. They wanted to show that their trainers were the best, their teams were the best, the Biggest Loser is the best. And they didn't want to show, I guess, that you could really do this at home and have a lot of success. Here's another thing that was really interesting. The way Dr. H formulated our plan, Jaron and I weren't injured. Every single person on set had significant injuries that they were basically told to ignore, or you're just weak, this is why you're fat. And so no wonder they were struggling with us, because they were injured, they were tired, they missed their family. It'd been months, maybe 3-4 months since they'd seen their family. And it was just, the whole thing was just really hard. So before I keep going into that, I want to tell you, there was a long time when I kind of had a little Biggest Loser PTSD. I did not watch the show after my season. I barely watched my own season. I've seen it maybe twice in all of history. Yeah, but overall these days, I just see it as a really interesting piece of my journey. It's really cool that it happened. Let me go into what Dr. H's plan was, and then I'll tell you what happened on the ranch. So Dr. H and the nutritionist and the psychologist, we had multiple weekly calls with all 36 of us plus those 3. So we were set up with a plan for success with nutrition, psychology, and a doctor. And this was all based on our own tests. So we each got our own macros, but generally speaking, I was told 1,274 calories per day. Break that into 3 bigger meals and 2 snacks. And the snacks, maybe have them directly after our workout within 30 minutes to replenish the glycogen in our muscle. And we would do things like Dr. H had these awesome protein shakes that were made out of ricotta cheese, a couple pieces of frozen fruit. I think it was like fat-free milk. I'm forgetting a few things, honey. And so we were getting whole food protein and just a touch of sugar to replenish the protein and glycogen after working out. And then the meals would be some meat and then some vegetables. Primarily speaking, there was a specific tortilla, like La Tortilla Company, I think, had a very low carbohydrate tortilla that we would then put salad and chicken and salsa in. A lot of us were eating Wausau crackers with Laughing Cow cheese, low-fat Laughing Cow cheese. So it was very low-fat, low-calorie. And he told us to spread it out. As far as working out, he told us to do 2 workouts a day, like an hour for one and an hour and a half for the other. So 2.5 hours a day, but you want to split it up as far as you can so that there's recovery in between. So let's say I would go on the treadmill for an hour in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I would do like 45 minutes of weightlifting and then 45 minutes of running. And we just varied it up every single day. We were supposed to do it 6 days a week. I remember getting really sick and even an injury a little bit in that time, like a little tiny pain in my foot. And Dr. Huizenga had said that it was good to get blood flow, and that if we get fresh air and blood flow, like gentle movement while we're not feeling well, that will actually help us get better faster. So every day we were working really hard, no excuses. But again, other than my foot hurting for a little bit for a few days, I didn't have any injury. When I get on the set, I find that the trainers were only there when the cameras were there. And there might be a little bit of exception there. Like one time Kim brought us to her house. She brought us to the beach. She brought us shopping. One time, I feel like she brought us to the movies or something. Like there was a little bit outside, but primarily we only saw the trainers when the cameras were there. Another thing, the cameras weren't there every day, and the cameras weren't there all day long. Now, there were little, like, let's say, little GoPros in every single corner. So every time you walked around the house, you could hear go with you. So cameras were always following you. There were hundreds of cameras. We were in season 2 and 3 was in the Hummingbird Ranch in Semi Valley, California. So if you go look it up, one thing I got to say of a positive here, that's where I was going before my internet died out. Positives. We got to live on a ranch, the most beautiful ranch in the whole wide world. I got my own bedroom with this beautiful tile and windows and views. It was sunny every single day. The production crew would bring us whatever food we wanted, which obviously we were all on plan. So it was all like Whole Foods and stuff like that. It was just like the best food of my life because California has the best produce, I think, probably in the nation. It's not like Minnesota produce is absolutely disgusting and appalling and full of it's just rotten and buggy. And it's very little selection because it's all being shipped here because of our slow growth season. And so anyway, the food we had was phenomenal. Getting to live in this amazing ranch that they filmed so many different things in was phenomenal. You know, getting to fly back and forth to California. I got to do the makeover and they had Warren and Jacoby did our hair and it was like Edward Scissorhands, and then they dyed it all up and made it look beautiful. I think that was the first time my hair was ever dyed. We got to have the clothes and the photo shoot and, all that part was just really, really cool. Such a cool experience. But the fact that the show isn't actually a weight loss medical facility and the fact that for the last 40 years we've had it all wrong is added up to not long-term success, which turned into shame, which turned into trauma, Okay, so I get on set. Dr. Huizenga promises me, just ignore everything on the show. Keep doing what you're doing. You are succeeding. You are on the right path. You will be successful if you keep doing this. I get on the show. Bob's refusing to have anything to do with us. The contestants hate our guts. But Kim was like, hey, I'll take you guys. I'll take you. And I was like, Dr. H told me to do my own thing. And she was like, but if you do, then you're on your own. You'll be completely isolated. You won't have anybody to work with. There were some comments thrown in definitely about my ego and that what I think I'm too smart to work with her or them and that I'm just so smart that I should just work on my own. And, myself was like, I'm a people pleaser. Nobody loves me. Nobody can truly love me unless I get this weight off was what was deep in my heart, to be honest. I caved like a day in and their plan did not work very good. Because already we are over 3 months into this weight loss journey. I don't know if it was around 3 months, 2.5, 3 months into this weight loss journey. We've already lost the easy pounds. Our body has already started metabolically adapting and we're hitting the hard part. And then I change everything up into this really dysfunctional, unhealthy version of weight loss. Because since the cameras are there all the time, since the game is being played 24/7, since the trainers aren't always there, there's no nutritionist, there's no psychologist, there's no doctor, really disordered things happen. I mean, we don't want to look like fools and we want to win and we want to succeed. And that's when things turn into disorder. I know the show ultimately ended because of Rachel and that they just thought, oh my gosh, this is obviously disordered and terrible. But that was happening the whole time. Every single season, the whole time. At least from season 2, probably season 1, these very disordered things were happening where they were like working out all day long and they were eating as little as possible. Jillian recently came out on her Instagram and she's all mad because they said that Jillian was having her contestants eat 800 calories and now she's denying it. But I've seen interviews of her and I want to say it maybe was on Thomas DeLauer, but it could have been on someone else's channel. She's all over the place. Where she said she had them eating 800 calories a day and they were just fine. She claimed in her interviews that none of her contestants lost any muscle. She claims that 50% of her contestants kept all of their weight off. We'll go into all their weight off later on. But anyway, so we're on the ranch. It's really disordered, to be honest. It's really unhealthy. It's unhealthy mentally because we're sequestered and this is intense and it's all a game and it's just awful. I had said about the mental health thing. One of the contestants that was on my season, she's just, if you were to look her up, I'm not wrong. There's something going on there. And it made for really good TV, but it was really traumatic and awful because I'm Mrs. People Pleaser and I don't understand people who hate my guts just because I exist. And anyway, okay, so I switch. We go through these. I keep losing weight though. And at the time I thought, well, I'm just Mrs. Amazing. Now I look back and I'm like, I was 21. My metabolism, although absolutely destroyed compared to a healthy human being, was not as destroyed as the 40, 50, 60-year-olds that I was competing with, So I was able to hold on until there was 1 week of filming after I left. Jaren was able to make it till the very end. He was the last person voted out. So we hung on tight despite not getting any advantages whatsoever. The challenges being against us and the crew being against us because they already have their favorites that they've been with this whole time. The trainers having their favorites, the people that have been there all the time. And yeah. Okay, let me see if I'm missing anything over here. Okay, another thing about these trainers, and again, I want to distinguish something really quick. I'm specifically talking about Jillian and Bob. Sorry. The trainers that came in for a season or two, I know this is what I experienced. And when I look in the alumni group, I see similar stories of people saying, listen, that trainer that I had, this XYZ trainer who was only there for a few seasons, not only were they super kind, they followed up with us. We're friends to this day. And you just hear really good things about the trainers that came in just for a season or two. And I feel the same way. So when I talk about trainers, I'm not talking about Kim Lyons. She was such a sweet human being. She was there to really help. I just wanted to put that piece in there. But okay, so when you look at both Jillian and Bob have now admitted on camera in different interviews that prior to The Biggest Loser, they never worked with people who were obese. And then you show up, and now these people are supposed to be the doctor, the trainer, and the psychologist. That's all you get. There was like an episode where Dr. H showed up, but you weren't allowed to talk to him. There was an episode where Cheryl, the nutritionist, showed up, but you weren't allowed to talk to her on set. It was just the trainers, and they were only there when they were filming. Speaking of filming, one thing I'm very disappointed is that they didn't discuss production at all. When you see people losing massive amount of weights, and it's in a week of filming was, I swear, sometimes close to 3 weeks. I mean, it was long. And I mean, it's still a lot of weight loss for the time period that happened, but you could never compete with that in real life because in real life, it wasn't a week. I wish I had written down the exact days of like how long everything was and I kept track of that. I wish I had that information, but I don't. But you know what? Jillian's pulling up emails left and right. I bet she has it in a warehouse somewhere. Anyway, so the week was not a week, and it had to do not with them trying to be deceptive in any way, but the fact that you need camera crews, you need sets, you need your actors, your trainers to come on set, you need the host to have time to come on set, and scheduling all of those things just doesn't happen 7 days a week. It just doesn't. So it took weeks to film 1 week of an episode. So I heard and I saw this. Once I entered the set, I wasn't allowed to talk to Dr. H anymore, or Cheryl, or the psychologist. And they, you can see, Bob said in the documentary Fit for TV, he said that Dr. H had a God complex. All doctors seem to have a God complex. I honestly think it's the opposite. Why would you not listen to a doctor who is there for metabolism, doing testing, doing science? And my season made that so much worse because he proved, look at all of my at-home, it wasn't just me and Jaren, it was so many of the at-home contestants were incredibly successful. And so you look at that against their plan, which to be honest, now kind of looks like fat person torture. And again, not speaking to Kim. This isn't speaking of Kim. This was Bob and Jillian. Honestly, fat people torture, where they're getting sick, they're throwing up, and they're being told, you did this to yourself. You deserve to be treated like this. You're basically a piece of crap. You've got people passing out and then being like, see, you're so weak. This is why you're so fat. It was disgusting the way those two talked to human beings, which now the science is coming out that it is an actual condition. You would not talk to people with cancer like that. You wouldn't be like, you did this to yourself, you big loser. And now I get to treat you like shit and talk down to you because you have cancer and you did this to yourself. We would never do that. And it was totally acceptable on The Biggest Loser, A. B, America ate it up. And to this day, we live with the stigma of, look at how we can treat fat people. Look at what they did to themselves. And then if they just work out and diet hard enough, see, they can get skinny. And so that's the problem, is that they're not dieting hard enough, these lazy, gluttonous, disgusting human beings. So gross. This is why, now it'd be so cool to see people losing weight. I would love for the show to come back. I would love to be part of it, especially what I've learned about nutrition and hormones. I would absolutely love to be part of a healthy way to do The Biggest Loser. I would love, 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 love it. Just throwing that out there. But the way that was done was just It wasn't about health. It was about losing the most weight, including muscle, bone, whatever you could lose. We went into Rachel and how Rachel was so disordered. I would love to know how Rachel's doing these days. But the truth of the matter is the men were doing that every single season. Every season. There were men that were walking up there like Skeletor and their wives were like, hey, I'm really worried he's about to have organ failure. Is it going to be okay? I was the only person who didn't realize that you should go do a colonic before your final weigh-in, and you should be sitting in a bag and spitting in the sauna before the weigh-in, and that we should be fasting for maybe 2 weeks before the weigh-in. I mean, crazy crap was happening, you guys, and that was happening all the way from the very beginning. They only called it out when a woman did it, but the men were doing that every single season before that. I guess I can't say every season because, again, I didn't watch it after my show, but there's a little piece here where we can just tell that Bob and Jillian think that fat people are just less than, and I really think the God complex isn't on Dr. H. I think it's on them. Okay, so let's say someone got injured or there was a problem on set. Did we get to talk to the doctor? Not really, no. Like, I wasn't sleeping and I was getting leg cramps. I don't remember what they gave it for me, but it took days to even get the message through the production to the doctor to get something, and I don't think they gave me anything. They just kind of said, you're fine. Everybody except for Jaron and I was injured, and they just had a guy there that was a former, I'm not going to say doctor, but a former trainer for a professional football team, and he would just tape everybody up every single day. And that's pretty much it, is you got tape. If you were hurt or there was an issue, tape. It's almost like he might as well just whip out a bottle of Windex as well. I don't know if you guys seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding of the dad that just thinks Windex is good for everything. On The Biggest Loser, tape is good for everything. Okay, so one of the things that they talked about was after the show, and it is true. There wasn't anything after the show other than each other. We have a Biggest Loser alumni group, but to be honest, it's been pretty quiet. I think it's because so many people gained their weight back, and there's just a lot of shame that comes with that. So then you just don't want anything to do with it. After gastric bypass and the sleeve kind of became popular, then more people started poking out, but then still the weight struggles continue, and so you just poke back in. And not that many people are having surgery, so it wasn't like this big, huge thing that, the whole group is just cured now. It wasn't until GLP-1 that people started talking, because they're finally getting control of their body and their weight for the first time. And then until this docuseries Fit for TV came out, then everybody came back out. So after the show, there really wasn't much social media. The only people who had Facebook were in college. I remember telling one of my friends that was on the season with me, I was like, hey, let's be Facebook friends. And she was like, what's Facebook? And I got her to join Facebook, but there really wasn't much social media. So when you look at my accounts versus season 16, you're like, oh, she's a loser. Well, no, they have social media when their show was on. I did not. There was relatively no social media. So there really wasn't much contact, but even if there was, if I'm going to be totally honest, I was a snowball train wreck from heck. I went back to college. I started drinking again, just like I couldn't moderate food because of hormone signaling. I really couldn't moderate alcohol either. I ended up making a huge fool out of myself. I ended up getting pulled over for having an open container. It was a mess. What a hideous thing for TV. So they just kind of kept me to the side at the finale. Plus, I was already gaining weight before the finale even happened. I'm gaining weight. I'm struggling with alcohol the second that the filming ended. I immediately gained all my weight back, guys. Immediately. And so when they talk about metabolic adaptation, I was bracing myself for them denying it. And basically their only thing was, well, this study was only 14 people. But yeah, that's how many people were on the season that they studied. If they studied all 381 of us, I would guess 379 people gained all of their weight back. That would be my guess. Maybe that's rude, but it doesn't make a scientific sense to go on a crash diet like this and keep your weight off. That makes absolutely no sense unless immediately when you got home, you went ahead and had some gastric bypass and started some GLP-1. Because the fact of the matter is that crash diets do not solve the issue. They actually make it worse. Like they talked about metabolic adaptation. When you slam your body like that, your body adjusts and says, I'm onto you and I'm going into preservation mode. I'm going to save you, and it throttles you down. So I absolutely had metabolic adaptation, and I've struggled ever since. I've done everything from marathon running and restricting low fat, zero fat diet, zero fat long term, which causes gallbladder issues, stone issues, all kinds of digestive issues, hormone issues, to eat zero fat. Couple that with marathon running. Then I went into keto, to carnivore. I skipped gastric bypass, and truly nothing worked until adding a low dose of GLP-1 to get those digestive hormones communicating. So I do believe that the show destroys your metabolism. However, every single human being on earth who does a crash diet, including the carnivore diet, if you lose massive amounts of weight very quickly, including on a carnivore diet, including on a keto diet, including on a low-fat diet, I don't care what diet you're on, if you lose weight very quickly, you will have metabolic adaptation. So that's why I'm really not mad at the show. And then here's the next thing. So we got 381 people. Most of us gained all or most or more of our weight back. This is the world's largest experiment of we can get very hard work and dedicated people, but through diet and exercise alone, they will not keep their weight off. If there was anybody who wanted to keep their weight off, it would be people who were on TV and wanted to succeed and wanted to inspire other people. That's another thing that's really amazing about our alumni group. I would guess 98% of the people that are an alumni of The Biggest Loser want to change other people's lives. They want to serve other people. They want to share a message of hope. And so if there's any people who wanted to keep their weight off, it was us. We absolutely wanted to inspire America, continue to inspire America. And then when we gained all our weight back, that's where it added on to the shame and, heartbreak. Oh my gosh. When I gained all my weight back, so I started out almost 230, went down to about 160. So that's almost 70 pounds that I lost. Then I went up to 330 pounds. So I went not only the 70 pounds back, but then another 100. And so you can't tell me that this isn't an actual condition. I wanted to succeed. And my body said no, especially after that show. Okay. One thing people talked about on the thing was that their family said they changed when they came back. And I would say a lot of people probably came home with eating disorders. That's no joke. That's real. But I would say my family said the same thing. And in my defense, I just want to say it's a complete paradigm switch. I had previously thought that if I lost weight, I would be worthy. And I did lose the weight. And then I had to figure out, how do I become worthy? Am I worthy? Am I lovable? I really had to figure that out. And that's a really weird spot to be in. So to me, it kind of reminds me of if you've ever been around a friend or a family member who's been through a divorce, a person going through a divorce, many people will say, you've changed, you're weird. It's kind of awkward. I don't know what to do with you because you're just a totally different person right now. It's the same when you come back from The Biggest Loser. Same thing. And one thing that's really interesting, this experiment, is that just about, they admitted that every person they were pulling on hated themselves or had some kind of trauma or some kind of something. Not everybody hated themselves. I've interviewed the people. Not everybody hates themselves, but to put people like that in a position of a lot of attention is very, very interesting. Okay. So I feel like I have so much more to share, but hopefully it will come out on the live with the other contestants. And I just now got another message from people who are likely going to join. I think there's going to be, I'm hoping for 5 of us, but we'll see. I'll take 4. It'd be great. It's an awesome crew. Awesome crew of superstars coming on with us. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope you guys will go check that out as well. But the last thing I want to say is, everybody said they just wished that they could have went on The Biggest Loser. Their lives would have been changed if they could have had that dream come true for them. And I'm just here to say that going on TV is a really cool thing. Getting to be part of Hollywood and on the sets and the photo shoots, that part's really cool. And I do wish that every person could get the 2 things that I got out of that. One is that I'm lovable no matter what size I am. And I have to figure out how to love myself. That has to come from me. It doesn't come from everybody else. It comes from me. And number 2 thing that I learned that I wish every single human on earth could learn is that anything is possible. Like people said, this is like being on The Biggest Loser, we thought was similar for many people to winning the lottery. I won the lottery. Literally anything is possible. But the good news is these days, we don't need The Biggest Loser. We don't. What we need isn't a big bad diet, isn't a crash diet, isn't to walk 12 miles a day in the sun every single day and then lift 3 times a week. It isn't any of that. We don't have to make weight loss a full-time job like it was on The Biggest Loser. What we need is to give our digestive hormones some relief. Some people, the condition isn't so bad and lifestyle alone is going to be great for them. But a lot of people like me who've been struggling our entire lives, and especially people who've been on the Biggest Loser diet, and then the gastric diet, and then the keto diet, and then the carnivore diet, and then the lion diet, and you've done all these diets and you've stressed your body out for 40 years, what we need is digestive hormone regulation. And I'm currently getting that through tirzepatide, which is a GLP-1, also known as Zepbound Mounjaro. The other one is semaglutide, also known as Ozempic Wegovy. So we get those digestive hormones communicating with our body, and then we slowly make lifestyle changes. And it doesn't have to happen overnight. Everything is going to be more sticky if we do it one thing at a time. Let's add some more meat to our life. Let's work on our sleep. Let's get some movement in today, whatever movement means for us. Let's get our water in and our minerals, and let's learn what minerals are. Let's learn and check if we have any B vitamin deficiencies, if we have any iron deficiency. Let's check our thyroid and our hormones, but just one step at a time. I know I'm throwing so much other, but one step at a time with our digestive hormones and our sex hormones and our thyroid getting optimized is going to make all the difference. We don't need this to be a full-time job anymore. It needs to be something in fact, the less stress in the process, the better. But the base, I'm not making it clear enough that I do think that slowly implementing important lifestyle changes like cutting processed foods and adding meat and adding whole foods is really vital to, this is a vessel. You only get one vessel, and how you treat it is so important to everything else. So we can try to optimize the thyroid, the hormones, and the GLP-1, but it's not necessarily going to work if we're throwing nothing but pizza and Tootsie Rolls at it and soda pop. But if we're giving it good fuel and we're giving it good rest and we're loving it and we're cleaning it and we're giving it sun and fresh air, all the tickets are going to start coming together. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I hope you like this content. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and share. Have a great day. Bye.